Welcome to the Talk Real to Me podcast. I'm your host, Macaulay Stahowski. Today, I have two of Top Hook's very own. I have Brianna McAllister, broker and owner, Faith Jones, who's one of our realtors. Today, our topic is informing a seller of a VA offer, and also we're going to talk about the purpose of open houses. Faith, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, how long you've been in real estate, what you love about the job, anything.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So I'm Faith Jones. I have been in real estate. I'm going on 6 years. Real estate is its own beast, unique, but I do love it. I want to say probably the best part about it is being a part of such a big transaction that people are doing. You know, it's like the biggest thing that they do, you know, in their life is to purchase a home. And it's nice to be a part of that. The excitement, just that core memory that they're always going to have, especially when it's a first time home buyer, to be able to be a part of the journey with them. I'm definitely a people person, and I love, you know, making connections and friendships. And I do feel like a lot of my clients end up being forever friends. And so that's a great feeling. So I feel like that's one of the biggest things. I mean, there's so much to real estate, but I feel like just being a part of that journey with them, like I said, and being a part of that memory, it's so exciting. Yeah.
So. Lifelong friendship that you end up making just off of to us, it could be a simple 30-day transaction. Yeah. I think that is the best part of real estate is your clients become close to you. They become family.
Yes, because you're walking them through so much. Well, I think I've said this before. You're like you're the counselor. You're so many things to them. You know, it's such a big thing, so many parts to it, and I feel like you're like the ringleader of the circus that you're trying to keep together, because there's so many other people a part of the transaction. So, even though it's 30 days, you're probably in contact with them probably every single day, and you know, they're putting so much trust in you. So like I said, it just feels good to be able to be a part of that, that core memory. You know, they're going to look back 10 years and, you know, they'll remember me. Yeah. And it's exciting.
Probably call you back again to sell their home within that time frame.
That's the goal.
Awesome. Thank you. Brianne, welcome back.
Hi.
You're with us on episode 2.
Yep. Should have been episode 1.
It should have, but we had to go with the kids first. So we had to go with the little ones.
Valid choice.
So go ahead and tell us something short and quick again.
My name's Brianne. I'm the broker owner of Top Hook Realty. I started real estate back when I was 18 and was a front desk mail sorting clerk. Our aunt got me a job when I was going to college up there, and then just kind of worked my way up over the years into sales and assistant, and now here we are, and we're running a small boutique brokerage here in the Kings County area. We reach out all over the state of California, along with partnering with some of the greatest referral partners across the country when some of our military folks move and relocate. So we've worked on networking with people. Got 2 boys and 2 very active boys, one going into high school and one who is 9. And we are on the brink of military retirement here in, I believe it was 50 days. I can't remember what the phone countdown on Dustin's calendar is, but super, super excited for the next phase of life as a family and for Top Hook, and
Retirement
is on the brink. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's a little bit frightening, but it's we're ready for it to have him home. And we went to a friend's retirement yesterday. Dustin's boss and his wife is a good friend of mine, and he made this comment that kind of stuck out to me because my kids don't know any different life, but he said something along the lines of, there's no more important emails, no more important phone calls, no more important texts that are more important than you guys. And military kids live kind of by that, you know, that's if dad or mom have to go, dad or mom have to go. If dad has to answer the call, And so that was a little bit of perspective for me and how my boys, that's the life they've known, and for their kids, that's the life they've known. So, I'm excited to see that, shift of life for our family. So
I love it.
We're ready for it.
That's cool. I heard a quote too recently, and it was, "We didn't get this far just to get this far."
Yep.
So there is a life after.
There is a life after. It's a little daunting. I was texting with another realtor last night and a friend, and I said, Dustin and I were driving on base yesterday and watching kind of the whole. We've been to tens of retirements, but this one hit a little different. It was people that we care about and that Dustin's worked with and friends, and we were like, the next time we're driving on base for one of these, it's going to be ours. And so I kind of watched probably a little more intently than I normally do at retirements, and watching the family's reactions and things that you don't get to see when you're kind of in the middle of it, and watching the way he was looking at his wife and he was looking at his kids, and those were all really cool things to kind of reflect on, and imagining what it's like to look back on for Dustin. It'll be 23 years of service, and I'm excited for our kids to just have that relief that Dad's going to be safe and be home, and we don't have to hold our breath every time he has a flight or something like that. So lots of fun stuff, exciting stuff happening. And Kyler's going to be going into his freshman year of high school. And so kind of the dynamics of that. So we're starting one chapter and ending one chapter. And so,
Awesome.
We're excited for it. It's going to be a good summer.
Like a good time.
Yeah.
Exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
We're ready to celebrate.
That's right. We're all going to celebrate. Everybody's going to be there for all of it. And we are pretty stoked. So
awesome. So Faith, we've kind of talked about this before. We'll get into the selling side of receiving VA offers. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about the 0% down. So what do you explain to your clients when it comes in, an offer that comes in that says, hey, there's 0% down and this is VA? What are you informing your sellers on that end?
So when you're receiving a VA offer, I feel like I've said this before too, you need to make sure your agent is educated in VA. I mean, because there are misconceptions, I think, sometimes. And so sellers don't know. They rely on us to be able to say, here's the different offers we got. What does it mean if it's FHA, if it's VA, and what does that mean if it's, 0 down? Well, just being able to explain that that's what VA, that's their perk. That's why they're able to use that. They do not have to put any money down. Doesn't mean they don't have money. I feel like that's where you need to be sure that you're educating your seller. Like, don't be afraid of feeling like, oh, well, it says 0 down. Does that mean they're not not qualified? They don't have money? No, it just means that that's what they're able to use. That's a perk of VA, is that they don't have to put that money down. They can maybe utilize that money for something else, updating something in the house or things like that. So anyways, I feel like you definitely need to be sure the agent that you choose is educated in all, loan types, but VA definitely, because I feel like sometimes if you're not able to explain well, and I feel like the sellers are not getting, represented, properly.
That's accurate for sure. I definitely think it's, especially being near NAS Lemoore.
Right.
And then also you want to be able to coach your clients also through the process, to where when they do have to resell and go to another place, if this is their first time selling, it's very important to coach them as much as we can to get them to be comfortable, not just with us, but when they come to resale and now they're looking for a different agent. Hopefully we can set that expectation. Like you're saying, we have to be knowledgeable in this aspect. Being near a base, it's very important. Yeah,
it's very common that you're going to get a VA. That's, a high probability. So you want to be sure that you know what you're talking about when that comes in, because you want to represent them the best you can. So being knowledgeable in that, and,
I definitely think one of the biggest changes that I like personally, I deal with just buying. So every time I've had a buyer come in, it's always been the selling agent saying, hey, especially when we get to Fresno, is, hey, VA offers, it's very hard to accept your offer because we have to get, pests taken care of on our end, on the seller's end. There's different things that it used to be that way, to where now I just had a client put in an offer in Fresno recently, and the house that they put the offer in fell out of escrow beforehand, and they had a huge list of pest reports or a huge list of stuff that got called. And so the selling agent's like, hey, with your offer, we aren't a fan of VA, unfortunately, but now we can negotiate that to a certain standpoint. So I think that's very important to coach people, not just our clients, but now other agents that, hey, this
agree. I agree.
We can go to that point.
And questioning, like, why? Because that's the other thing. Sometimes it's like they will make those comments like, we're not a big fan of that. Well, why? Because let's talk about this. Maybe there's something that you don't know that we can make this work.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I feel like we are talking more about VA loans, and I feel like we're definitely educating ourselves more and those around us. Cause I feel like even 5 years ago, I don't feel like when I first started, I don't feel like the perks of VA were talked about as much.
Right.
So. And
I want to be clear too, to where, Brandon, mistake me if I'm wrong. Now we can call the lender and say, hey, is there a limit? Because obviously we don't want to affect any kind of spending that they have to go towards pest reports or pest repairs. I keep saying reports.
So you have a little bit more VA. One of the great things there's so many great things about VA, but you have a little bit more of a flexibility on the allowances or the credits you're allowed to get. So kind of piggybacking on what Faith said a little bit on making sure that we're educating, right? Like one of the most important things I think that realtors miss is you come in and you say, well, I'm going to be a listing agent, or I'm going to be this, or I'm going to be that. All new agents that I bring in, they start off as buyer's agents, like you talked about. And so I do that very specifically for a reason. And that's because your buyers, if you're running your day-to-day real estate business properly, those buyers should start your sphere. That should start your portal. And those people should be calling you in 3 to 4 years, especially if you're a military and you're on orders or whatever, right? So you starting off as a buyer's agent, you're learning all the different loan programs. You're learning all the different ins and outs. You're growing your relationships with your lenders. You have your trusted group of lenders that you can pick up the phone and call. They're the ones that are going to keep you updated on what the changes in VA, FHA, whatever loan program. We just specifically happen to work with a lot of VA. But we are also getting those updates on FHA and conventional and all those things. It is really important. Even if you're just a buyer's agent, you're going to be a listing agent one day, right? Because you've got that sphere that you started with your buyers. So listing agents, when I talk to some people and I'm questioning stuff on why don't you want to accept a VA offer? Well, the loan is just not a good loan. Well, what do you actually know about the loan? Well, I heard, okay, how many times have you represented a buyer? Because you have different perspective as a buyer's agent with a VA loan than you do with that some may have as a listing side. So I think it's really important that even if you're just strictly a listing agent, and we do have some of those people that are just, nope, I'm only listings. But you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because you're not getting into the nitty gritty of whatever loan program it is. I mean, I don't care what it is. Loans change daily. And so educating yourself, not just on VA, but on all loan programs, FHA, all that kind of stuff is really important to do. And I feel like you don't really do that unless you're able to go out and represent a buyer and be in the nitty gritty of having those, showing the houses and looking for those things that may show up on any type of loan on an appraisal. So I think that's important. Like Faith was saying, having somebody that's educated. And some people just aren't because they only represent sellers. And so you can still learn, but you're not learning from experience and being out there and that kind of stuff. So I think that's really important to touch on as well. I try and keep a really even balance. Like if you look at my numbers, I'm almost neck and neck on listing side and buying side because I've gotten to the point in my career where I've got just a steady. So I can go back and look at what my year is going to look like this year or next year because I'm going to go back and look at about 3 years ago and see how many buyers I represented, how many sellers I represented, because those people, if I'm doing my job right, those people should be coming back to me. So now I get the excitement of representing them on the sales side. And so I'm getting to send them off to their next duty station with an experience with me on VA with buying and selling. And I've set the precedent and I've set the expectation. So when they go to their next, I tell people, and you can go back to any one of my buyers, my goal is not just to sell you a house. My goal is for you to learn about the VA product. So you leave here with money in your pocket and knowledge in your mind so that you can go to the next duty station and know exactly what the VA loan is, because there's so many people. I have so many clients that have built such great wealth off of their VA loan.
Yeah, and so many that don't realize all the perks that they're missing out on because they don't know. Didn't realize
so
it.
So if you use, it's a great thing. You've earned that right, right? Like you've earned that right as a service member by going in and volunteering yourself to serve our country. You've earned that right for the zero down, which again, Faith is exactly correct. That's probably one of the biggest questions that I get is, well, they don't have any money down, and this one's putting 20% down or whatever.
Right.
Hold on. That doesn't mean they don't have the money. That means that there is a perk to their VA loan that they don't have to put the money down. And in turn, I can tell you that a lot of my buyers go through a house and they're saying, they're a little more flex on those items that might need to be updating or needing repair, because they're like, well, I'm not putting any money down. I've got about 30,000 in my bank account. So I can go in and I can do those things myself. Where people that are having to stretch to meet that 5, 10, 50, whatever requirement they have, they're draining their bank account. They're asking the seller for closing costs. They're asking, and a lot of my VA buyers, they're a little bit more open to going in and doing things themselves. So I think that's something that's kind of overshadowed as well is, and again, going back to educating, right? Like you have to go in as an agent and say, this might be an issue. Not necessarily just for VA though, because across the board, I have to say, I pretty much get the same things called, whether it's conventional or VA, right?
Yes.
And so unless you have a cash offer that they're not calling any of that because there's no appraisal.
Again, that's why I was saying about being educated. When you go to that listing appointment, to be able to tell your seller, it doesn't matter if it's VA or not, this is a health issue or this is a safety issue or, but I feel like, again, if you're not educated, so many times agents will be like, oh no, we can't take a VA loan because the house is this, that, and the other. I'm like, well,
and that goes back to your listing appointment and going in and saying, hey, very likely, here's the different loan programs that are prevalent in our area. Mm-hmm. And VA should be one of those first ones that come out of your mouth because it is. It's what it is. Yeah. The rates oftentimes are better than your conventional. And again, same thing, they have that ability to, people are more money conscious now. And so they have money in their bank account. They have money to saved for buying a house, for doing updates on a house, for doing those things. And I think I've seen that shift probably in the past 5 or 6 years, where I see more people with more money in their bank account than I did maybe like 10 years ago when and that could be part of where it came from too, is some of these agents that have been doing it for a long time. Well, they don't have money, they don't have this. And there was a time that may have been the case, but we're seeing much more savvy buyers. We're seeing much more financially stable buyers as well, where when I send somebody over to get qualified, it is very rare that any of my VA people get kicked back to me. Very, very
And that's
rare.
why you need to trust your your lender that you
Absolutely.
use too, because
and you need to be able to have a lender that you can call and run some of these things by. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a picture or a video of something and I'm texting Jeremy like, hey, issue, I think this will be an issue. No, not any different than it would be on any other loan type. And so I think those are important relationships to have too, is having your people that are very well versed and educated in the VA
and won't just provide a letter.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, no, I mean that's true. Yeah.
The coolest parts of getting started in real estate is getting pre-approved. I think once you get that letter of, hey, I'm approved at this price point, that's always a great feeling. Not just VA, that's for anybody coming in and saying, wow, I can afford this.
And no matter how many times you've purchased too, it's still kind of fun to see your name on a letter.
Yeah.
With so many
that you can get
zeros
a lot of
behind it.
Yeah, that you can get a lot of money for a home. That's definitely part of the process. Another part of the process is Tidewater.
Yeah.
When we come to VA, So a broker's perspective, when you see an alert, we'll call it an email from an appraiser, or sometimes it does come from the loan company that you use. What is it? What is Tidewater, and what is it that makes that process stressful for when you're selling?
So I would be remiss to not say that my boat is named Tidewater, and everybody that doesn't know about military and VA doesn't understand it, but everybody else thinks it's funny. I also have a cat named Fizbo, so
That means for sale by owner.
Yes,
for those that don't know.
So I think that Tidewater is a process where you get notified by your appraiser saying your home that you're in contract for, that your client's in contract for, is not meeting contract price. Okay. And so, and other loans don't do that. So some appraisers will give you a courtesy, right? And they'll be like, oh, do you have comps to send me? Because I'm not finding value. Where with Tidewater, you're issued a notice before the full executed appraisal is sent out to the lender and to the borrower. They're giving you a time frame to come in with your comps, with your explanation on pricing, and any of those types of things. Where other loans don't do that, you just, and if you have an appraiser who doesn't communicate or doesn't want to let you know for whatever reason, then you're just getting an appraisal and you're getting a notice of value saying, hey, you're 10,000, whatever it may be. The thing I like about VA is the Tidewater process, because it gives me as an agent the opportunity to go in and justify whatever price. I will tell you though, before you're writing any type of offer, you should be pulling comps as a buyer's agent, right? Like, and you should be saying, no matter if you know the house is priced, you need to be sending comps to your buyer, or you need to be looking at the pricing and saying, yeah, I think it's accurate. I think it's fair. Most of my buyers will do that. They'll say, hey, do you think this is correct pricing? You should know if you're not priced correctly as a listing agent. You should know as a buyer's agent if the house is overpriced, and you should be having those conversations as well. And you should be having those conversations with the listing agent as well, saying, hey, listen, so if I see a house that I don't think is priced correctly, I'm going to have that conversation with my buyer. At that point in time, my buyer has a choice. We're going to go off of comps, or if it's multiple offers, we're going to say, hey, what do you guys want to do? Here's the pricing that I have. This is where I'm comfortable. But if the comps, if there's multiple offers and the comps are showing something else, I leave it up to my buyers on what they want to offer. But I'm also on the side having a conversation with the listing agent and saying, hey, listen, these are the comps that I have for this house. Can you help me understand why you're pricing at what you are? At that point in time, that agent either has a reason, or their response to me is, this is what my seller wants to list at, and this is what we're doing. My follow-up question is, if our offer is accepted and if we get a low value on the home, what is your seller's game plan? Are they willing to reduce? Are they going to put it back on the market? Are they going to ask my buyers to come in with cash? And then from there, I can go back and properly, again, advise my clients, like, hey, listen, if this comes in low, if I'm wrong and this comes in low, or, if I'm correct and this comes in low, they're not willing to budge on the price.
So let me hit on Faith. During COVID, have you had a Tidewater process happen at all to where anything has came in lower? Or what was the market in when COVID was around for you?
COVID was crazy. I feel like it was, I was only an agent for maybe a couple years before that happened. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I've never experienced such a thing. I'm actually kind of thankful I did. It was, I learned so much. But yeah, that was a crazy time. So yeah.
What were the offers that you were?
I can tell you right now, one client that stands out to me, we offered $30,000 over with an appraisal gap. They paid the cash. It didn't come. We knew it wasn't. We had so many. We were trying to beat out all the offers, and I would never advise someone. Right now, it's like I wouldn't. We have all the conversations of all the possibilities. Of course, you can always do that. But why in this market right now would we want to? Unless a situation. I feel like maybe now we still are kind of seeing here and there, those things. But before COVID, I never would tell a client, oh, let's offer 30,000 over. And what we'll do is we'll offer that appraisal gap. So if it doesn't appraise, you'll just pay the cash. Like typically.
And it's crazy how many people were just like, okay. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's.
Yeah. So I almost feel like
it's scary.
It was a weird time. Like you can't even, I don't even think we were battling any appraisals at that time. I mean, I don't feel like at that time we were ever battling appraisals. It was almost like, how do we get this house? I don't care what it takes. Appraisal gaps were the way to go. If you had an agent that knew what they were doing, they were not asking for any inspections. They were cutting down their time of inspection, if they even did the inspections, and offering appraisal gaps. I mean, we had to be so creative. Right. So I feel like at that time appraisals weren't a thing. But the question was the Tidewater. I have had that happen before. And back to being educated in what you're doing, I feel like it's very important that's part of like letting your seller know when you're listing a house what VA offers are about and why it is a good thing. I mean, that's the only time that you can be able to question that appraisal. If it doesn't, if you're not happy with the way it comes in, you have the ability to pull those comps and say, wait a minute, like, let's address why we feel like this was the value. Here's the comps that we, and there has been times that we've had that turned over. So maybe it came in low, show those comps, and we're able to, the appraiser's like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I agree. This makes sense, or however the process works. And we were able to get the value that we needed.
Yeah.
And that's not the case in the other loan programs.
It's a little bit slower. I've noticed. It's like you said, this with Tidewater, there's an alert. Mm-hmm. You are well aware that your client could be overpaying for it. That's how I look at it on the bank. Hey, this is the offer that you guys have. It's not meeting value. Your client's going to be paying over.
Yeah. So there's perks. I feel like I'm kind of talking about the listing side and you're talking about so exactly both sides. You need to be aware, because if I'm representing, the listing side, then of course I want to be sure. I want to make sure it's making that value. Where you're saying if you're representing buyer, if it's coming in lower, then that's
so that's what I want to hit on now. So back when I started 2 years ago, COVID was here and my clients were paying above appraisal just like yours. Mm-hmm. Now I want to talk to you, Brian. We're in a completely different market of Tidewater, to where if a Tidewater does pop up, our clients are now like, no, we aren't going to pay above what the appraisal value is now. Right. So we're having to adjust as sellers, or what is the listing agent side now if we get Tidewater?
We're back in a normal market is what we're doing. This was pre-COVID stuff. And I don't think, I'm trying to think back to the past 2.5 years, and I don't recall having a Tidewater either. I have heard recently of some agents having Tidewaters, and they usually call me and ask how to navigate them and that kind of stuff. And so I think we're in kind of an adjustment period of, we're coming off those comps that were really high, and we're starting to see a little bit more of a balance where houses aren't going in 5 minutes, and we're seeing a little bit more negotiating. I'm seeing a lot more closing cost requests come across, and that's both VA and conventional and all those things. So I think what we're starting to see now with Tidewaters is a little bit more of a balance of what it was before. And again, those are conversations on the listing side you have to go in and have. Mm-hmm. And it's hard too, because you come in and you talk to a seller and they're like, well, my neighbor sold 10 months ago and, over ask and he got to stay in the house for 5 months and, all these crazy things. And I'm like, okay, so let's hone back in here. Things have shifted and things have changed. And agents that maybe have come in the past 2 years, you say Tidewater and they're like, what is that? And so, and it's all a very normal process. And I think we're going to see more of those as we're adjusting a little bit. We're in a spring upswing right now. But getting Tidewaters and lower appraisals is starting to happen, and seeing it. I don't think that means the market's crashing. The sky is not falling, that none of the things, but we're not where we were last year. And so
that's a good thing.
It is. I can tell you, I've had, I have some pretty amazing clients that are smart and educated and reasonable. And so when I have those conversations of most of them don't even bring up anymore what it was, like they already know. And again, a lot of them are my military clients that are really, they just want to have some money in their pocket. They want to leave their house to somebody who's going to love it, and they want to move on to the next season of life. And so, of course they want the most money they can get. They're not,
not handing over that.
Not handing over cash, but I notice that when I'm offering with some of my buyers and having some conversations with some other agents, and I'll say, hey, it's been sitting on the market for a little while. Yeah, we're still, imagining COVID prices. And I'm like, okay. So then I can go back and have those conversations. But tidewaters are happening now, and they're happening a little more frequently. And then it goes back to pricing correctly. And it goes back to making sure you've got your sellers aware of the perks of VA. And I've had actually more cash clients cancel and walk away on transactions than I've had VA buyers. Wow. Because cash buyers are a little more, keep that cash a little closer to their chest, as they should. And they will walk away, no problem. My VA buyers are likely a military family in Japan that are going to be here for 3 or 4 years, and they need a place to live, and they know the date they need to live there. And so they will come in and they will do those little extra repairs or things, where a cash buyer sometimes will be a little bit, have higher expectations of what they want. Right. And so there's that. I've had listings where cash buyers have walked away, and then I get a VA buyer in there and knock it out of the park, and we're closed 25, 28 days later. VA buyer has a home for the next 3 or 4 years, and my sellers are moving along their way. So don't count out those VAs.
Yeah.
A little more heart and soul in there sometimes.
I'm with you on that. Faith, this is a second side I want to hit, is open houses. So right now we can drive around on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you're going to see open house signs going on. So explain the importance of an open house to not just your clients, but to us as realtors. What's the purpose of that?
So I would say, of course, back to when you're sitting down with your sellers and you're getting ready to list, and you want to talk about what are you going to offer them? You're able to obviously put it on all social media platforms, but what are other things that you can do? And being able to have open houses, our sellers like that. It's just an additional way that we're supporting and showing that we're, trying to sell the property. We're motivated. So I feel like that is, they like that. It's not, it's a nice addition. So back when in COVID, we weren't able to do that, and it was a bummer.
Houses would just fly off. We didn't.
I guess it wasn't a bummer in that. Yeah, I mean, they were flying off. We didn't need the open houses, I suppose, at that time. But still, that's just part of. I feel like that's like a big piece of being an agent. You do open houses, so I feel like I said, as when you're talking with your sellers, it's nice to be able to say, these are all the ways I will promote and have your house on all the social media platforms, but also we can do open houses. Right. So that's,
I think it's important too to get as much information from them as possible. What have you upgraded on your house that we can sit here at an open house and tell you about? What's your solar contract?
Definitely.
And some instances you've had other agents call Brian and say, hey, can we do an open house for you? So it's important to have information to even relay to them. There's sometimes like Brian will tell me, hey, they may be able to help out on some closing costs, just to let people walking in, if we have someone that you can usually tell if they're pre-approved already, they'll let you know, to where, hey, if this person's aggressive, hey, this is when we tell this person as much information as possible. And some people now, we get a lot of window shopping.
Yeah.
A lot of window shopping.
But I will say, I feel like, a perk of an open house is you might have those buyers that are on the fence, and then they see open houses happening and they start walking around and checking them out. And they're like, oh, you know what? Actually, maybe we should take that next step and get pre-qualified. So I feel like that is, a good, that's why it is good to have those open houses. Cause like I said, you do have those buyers that are out there. They might just be having the conversation, but they haven't actually taken the next step to get pre-qualified. But once they go out there and start kind of looking around, window shopping, either way, that they're like, oh, you know what? I would love a house with a pool, or I like this open concept, or it's like getting a little taste of, So.
Yeah. It also, like, I've noticed I have a listing right now that I've got very specific showing instructions on for multiple reasons, but I need a qualification letter before you go in, before I disrupt the family, and husband's deployed, and it's a very popular house in town, and you get a lot of looky-loos that have zero desire, right? Like this house is a well-known house in Hanford. And it is, I went back and looked at the algorithms and all the stuff from the past few times I've listed this house, and this house has skyrocketed 3 times more than any listing I've ever had. And so I try and be conscious of my sellers, right? Because we don't want people going out for showings if you're just driving by and, you were dating the guy that lived there in high school and you want to go back and see, I've gotten some weird things, weird things. So in those instances where I'm like, okay, hey, I need a pre-qualification letter, which I do on most of my listings for showings, but some of them, if they're vacant, okay, go show. It gives the opportunity for me to gear people towards those open houses and say, hey, from Saturday till whatever time. And then they're walking through the door. And like you said, they are just kind of looking around, but maybe they have a friend or they have somebody that house would fit their criteria. And so open houses, I think, provide that as well. It gives my sellers, I tell my sellers, open houses also give you the opportunity of not having everybody and their mom walking through your house if they're not interested, and me asking you to pack up the kids and the dogs and all the things, right? And then when I go to try and get follow-up on a showing, and the seller's like, or the buyer's agent says, nah, they're not interested. So I think open houses provide that opportunity as well to get those maybe people that just want to see what your neighbor's doing.
Awesome. Last thing I want to hit on for you, Faith, you're a huge volunteer here around the community. That's one of the best parts that I love about you. It's, for your children to explain the LLS side of things that you have going on, what you've done already, and then what you have coming up too as far as volunteering.
Sure. So yes, volunteering, I love it. It is a passion. It's part of, I don't know, I just feel like I have a heart to give.
You see faith everywhere.
But also being here with Top Hook, it's like perfect fit because that's what Top Hook is all about. I mean, Brianna is such a supporter in everything in the community. So it just feels so natural. It feels so good to be able to be a part of that because that's where my heart is. So I feel like it works perfect. So currently I'm a part of a LLS campaign. So it's the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. It's blood cancer. The 10-week fundraising campaign, we're actually in 7 weeks. Monday will be 8 weeks. We're just trying to raise as much money as we can. I'm representing Kings County, so there's other nominees like in Fresno and Tulare. And the goal is just raise as much as we can for the foundation. Also just raising awareness. So I feel like just the last few weeks being a part of this campaign, I've learned so much about blood cancer, and I didn't realize what the LLS resources were about. I mean, they have free education. They support those families financially if they can. It just, I don't know. I feel like you hear that like, oh, there's so many resources for cancer patients, but until you're like truly like a part of, I don't know, like a part of it, you don't realize how much they help. So I almost feel like I was already honored to be asked to be a part of this, but now really getting into being more involved, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's even like better than, of course I want to raise money for this great foundation. But then when you hear all the things that they do for the families, it's like, oh my goodness, like I really want to spread the word and say, if you know anybody that has blood cancer or yourself, like please be in touch with the LLS. They have so much resources for the families because that's a stressful thing, and not just the free education, but they also help with like the counseling side, like the mental health. I mean, imagine being diagnosed with a blood cancer and what it can do to your mental health and what you're going through. And so I feel like that's an area that not everybody is aware of either. They have resources for that. For the patient and for the family. So anyhow, that's a little bit about that. So May 12th is the gala, they call it. They're going to announce who the winner and who raised the most money. So it's just been It's been great to get so much support though from people in Kings County, from Top Hook, and
that's what I want to talk about. Go ahead and name the local spots that have helped you out here too.
Definitely Top Hook has been huge support. I mean, I really couldn't have even done this without you guys. And then Hop Forge Brewery, they have teamed up with us, so they're helping us raise some money right now. They're in it right now, actually, because this goes until May 12th. The Body Shop Health Club in Lemoore, they're also teamed up with us, so they're raising as much money as they can when it's called a roundup. So like if you purchase a shake or protein powder from them, they ask the customers if they would be willing to donate a roundup, as well as acai bowl. Sorry, acai bar. They also are teaming up with us as well. So those are a couple of the local businesses, but I mean, so many people just in the community have donated directly. Yeah, and I'm
the concert was great.
Yes.
You could hit on that too.
We had a concert last Friday. I actually, once we're done here, I'm going to be posting a little bit about the concert. So we did our big fundraising event was the concert at Riverdale Rodeo Grounds last Friday, and Sadie Bass, she was on The Voice. She was there. She was amazing.
She did great.
Yes.
She was. That was
sweet.
a good time.
She was so sweet and just so fun. And the best, I feel like what was great about it too is a family fun. It wasn't just an adult, 21 and over. It was, you saw the kids running around. The kids were actually on stage with her.
Yeah.
She had the kids come up.
She was a great performer, and she was very personable. I loved that. She was super involved, and that was great.
Yeah. So it was a new venue. They've never done concerts, so we were the very first. But even with that, it was a great turnout. We were able to raise, I just got some numbers yesterday. It's about a little over $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm thankful for
I loved
that.
working the front gate right there and just people giving extra cash because they knew the purpose of it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yep.
Proud of you for going out and doing that.
Yeah. So thank you.
Just going out and
it was a good
extra.
part of being a part of Top Hook, and this is I've had this conversation with everybody I bring in, is we're a little bit different goal focused, and so bringing in the right people is incredibly important. On you pay to your brokerage and you do all those things, and so going out and being able to support these things and support what Faith's, her desire to do this and all that kind of stuff. We have such a good group of people that are very volunteer driven and have these amazing hearts. And so it was really cool to see that whole thing come full circle or almost full circle. We're not quite there yet, but because at the beginning, Faith was like, what are we going to do for our big event? And then again, friends within the community that were just like, hey, we've got this. And Six Strings for Freedom was big on that. Clay over there, getting it all set up for us, and who does a lot of these concerts for nonprofits and fundraising events. So that was really cool event to be a part of and see. So we're really proud of you for all that and all you're doing and all you do. And
thank you.
It's good stuff.
Awesome. Well, that's all I got today, guys. Thank you for coming in to get this thing handled. I'm ready for the next ones. You guys are down for more. I'm going to keep bringing you guys.
We're going to interview you next.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah. Next we have questions for you.
Supposedly my brotwer-in-law is going to be doing that also. So I'm excited to be a part of that one
also. I will be editing.
No, we're excited. But thank you guys again for coming. And I just want to say thank you for anyone listening, and especially the veterans. Thank you guys for your service. It's much appreciated.